Hey guys, so Kai'Sa has just released, and apparently that is how you say her name. I looked at the right video before recording this, and while a whopping 36% win rate after day one is pretty impressive, she has the potential to be insane, I think. That is not going to stop me from banning her so I don't get her on my team, but I did spend my day having a look at the best builds and also how pros are playing her as an AD carry. So first off of this video will be like a starter guide. We're going to go over the builds, the runes, and also the skill order that you should be running on Kai'Sa right now, or the pros are running right now on her. Second half of the video, we're going to be looking at Han Summer, one of the best AD carriers in Europe at the moment. He played her. He's a pretty good Kai'Sa already. Well, he's a pretty good AD carry, I guess. But looking over one of his games, a couple of team fights, and his lane phase to see what you should actually be doing and aiming for in game. Now it seems like her win rate as the game goes on improves massively, which is kind of the opposite of what a normal new champion is like. Normally they have an okay win rate early game where you can just lane phase and the skills transition quite easily, but then moving into team fights, nobody has any idea what to do, so they suck. Kai'Sa is not like that. She's actually very good in team fights late game, so she really does follow the Vayne style of having this hyper carry. It does kind of make sense with their upgraded skills, and late game you've got to get a mix of burst and consistent damage with your passive, but it is quite hard to get to late game right now. It'll be pretty common for her to seem a little bit useless unless she gets fed, at least at the moment. Keep in mind though, her Q can do a ton of burst damage if it's upgraded and you have some AD with that. And basically you'll either see a lot of her damage come from auto attacks, like a cross between a Varus and a Tristana, or it'll be a mix of auto attack and ability damage, a lot like a Xayah, for example. There are three main builds that we're going to look at that we're seeing a lot right now, unless you're GBM and who played a mid lane actually with Lethality, Duskblade, and Spellbinder, and apparently went godlike. The first one though is the most common build, but probably not the best actually. It's Blade the Ruined King first. It pumps some AD into your Q, gives you a bit of lifesteal and attack speed to stack your passive a little bit quicker. It has decent synergy as well with the percentage damage from her plasma stack passive, but then after that we're going to go into crit, so Shiv and an Infinity Edge. This is a very normal burst style for a champion that builds crit, like the two items together, and then we round out the build normally as well with attack speed, last whisper, or a defensive item. If we get Berserker Greaves, so attack speed boost, and static Shiv after Blade, you can actually upgrade your E and get the invisibility pretty early into the game. This seems to be what most people have started with, but the build that has a lot of Koreans playing as well on the ladder at the moment, it's not the one that a lot of pros are still using going into day 2, but it seems like the default choice. Our second build is Ragebait, probably one of the better builds for now and has a higher win rate as well on stat websites. A Ragebait gives you AD, AP, and attack speed, and that synergizes with your entire kit. It makes you very strong from just one item, which we said was one of our problems, which is big as well for how the game is at the moment. A Ragebait applies your passive twice when it's stacked, so it's a lot more damage. With a lot of attack speed from this as well, your E will be up a lot more too because it's reduced by auto attacks. Then you're looking at Runins normally after that. It applies your plasma on the Runins bolt, so up to 3 targets at a time, increase your AoE damage a lot, and with Berserker Greaves on top of that, you upgrade your E with this build. After that, we go into Blade the Ruined King or an Infinity Edge. Now, Infinity Edge will actually upgrade your Q, but Blade won't. Blade is maximizing the on-hit playstyle, like with your Rage Blade, and is focusing on auto attacks a lot more, whereas Infinity Edge is using your Q damage a lot more, plus more burst, and is crit focused. That's probably the build you're going to see a lot at the moment, but number 3 is becoming a lot more popular now, Essence Reaver. It is a little bit different, but cooldown reduction is very good on Kai'Sa. You play her bursty here. Your Q gets down to a 4-second cooldown. Build her like a Xayah. Essence Reaver, Rapid Fire Cannon, or Shiv, and then Infinity Edge after that. You will not upgrade your E in this build until later, so keep that in mind, but we can actually kind of get around that. You will upgrade your Q though after you get Pickaxe, part of the Infinity Edge, and with a 4-second cooldown on an upgraded Q, you will do a ton of damage. That is where your damage really comes from with this build. It's a very different style from the others. You might find it a little bit more fun to play though as an ability burst Kai'Sa build, which I assume a lot of people love, like the big damage. If you take Alacrity from attack speed from your runes, you should be able to just pick up a dagger after Rapid Fire Cannon or Shiv or whatever and upgrade your E as well if you really wanted to. Those are the 3 main item builds that we have right now for her, and yes, you're going to notice there's no real AP damage. I'm sure we're going to find some others that really work, like Gunblade has a pretty decent win rate if you throw it in there like kind of 2nd or 3rd. Her W doesn't seem to be doing a whole ton right now though, except tag them with plasma at the moment, which is kind of a shame. We can also do that though by building a Rapid Fire Cannon. Long range auto applies your plasma, you can jump to them with your ultimate. It makes going into AP not as worth it, but all of your stuff actually scales with ability power as well, so we might see it a bit more over time. The hybrid Varus build I'm playing at the moment that we just did a video about, for example, that would probably work on Kai'Sa as well. Wit's End would also be really good in any of these builds, probably the Rage Blade one specifically, considering how your passive is actually magic damage. Last couple couple of things. Skill order is very normal. A Q into E and then finally your W afterwards. Your Q is your main damage tool, so you want to max that first because you want to be doing some damage with your abilities when it actually matters early into the game. You really want that E cooldown though as low as possible after for your free stealth, which is a massive part of team fighting. If we look at our runes, Fleet Footwork is taking the most right now and wins the most at the same time, even after the nerfs. Press attack is also quite common and a decent choice if you want to fight a little bit more. If you're a bit more of an aggressive player, a lot have started actually going Bloodline again with Overheal under that in the precision tree. Alacrity will feel a bit better when you play it, but the healing can really help you at the lifesteal when you're going for the Essence Reaver build, in particular where you're not building lifesteal. If you're going to rush a Blade the Ring King, I'm not sure it's exactly really needed, so you can just go for Alacrity instead. Sorcery is our secondary choice on pretty much everybody though. Absolute Focus is a lot more popular now as an AD carry, kind of come up a lot more in 8.4 and now in 8.5. Or you can take Celerity in that same row and then Gathering Storm underneath that, which makes a lot of sense considering how good she is late game. So this AD is actually Han Summer. He is the AD carry for Misfit. It's probably one of the best AD carries in Europe at the moment. He's number 5, I think, on the ladder. He's playing a lot of Kaisar as well, so it's pretty good. But one thing you notice in the lane phase quite a lot is he just does a very basic auto into Q trades. Quite a lot, obviously, level 2 here, advantage, so they're forcing Braum out of the lane, but then they're going to have a bit more of a fight, and we'll see how deadly she can be even at level 2. So we get the root obviously on Thresh, then Braum jumps in, it puts up the block, and we got Kai'Sa basically stacking her passive on the Braum. That passive actually procs, does a lot of damage, and that is what leads them to getting the kill. It was a bit of a botched play anyway, but you can basically see that in lane, a lot of her damage is going to be coming from her passive and also from her Q. So if you can combine both those together, that's pretty much how you win a trade. So they're going to get level 3, and this is where Kai'Sa has all of her abilities now, so she can actually be a bit stronger. She's going to be able to use her E to gap close forward to actually dive into this fight. You can see use her E here. She can use her W onto the Xayah to apply 3 sets of plasma, then auto twice, and she's going to be able to proc the plasma with her Q, and that is a really good trade, a really effective trade, and all she's done is land the W. So that is pretty much what your W is for there, stacking the plasma on them. You also attack a couple of times after that, and you get a really good trade out of it. The rest of the lane phase is honestly kind of boring. Nothing really happens that much. They go back, they farm, they buy it. This kind of like a normal Hilo game pretty much. But this is actually really cool. She's going to use her W here to fly forward, and it's actually going to hit the Braum and then use her ultimate to gap close on top of him, and this is going to get her into the fight. I bet she should pick up the kill as well. She's not using any of her abilities right now because she's waiting for the shield's timeout for Braum. Flashes in, uses her Q, gets the extra plasma through there, and picks up a kill. This is a really good example though of why Kai'Sa's roaming is actually pretty decent, because you can hit your W if you can hit it, which is kind of difficult from that far away. Use your ultimate to gap close afterwards, and it kind of sets everything up really well. So she's actually pretty good when moving into the jungle or into mid lane. Now we're going to get into some stuff that's a bit more spicy. So the team fights, you can see Mickey kind of gets a little bit caught here, but they manage to lock down the Corgi, and they get the damage burst onto that. But as we get into the team fight, you'll see how it's more her mobility than her damage that is actually really good with Kai'Sa. Like, she does okay damage, especially late game. Her damage is insane, but at this point in the game, you can see she's already really chunked out. It's pretty low. Heals to go back in, using her plasma passive. The lantern there was really good to readjust, but then she's going to use her ultimate here. Dodges the Kha'Zix jump in with that, and then gets onto the Maokai, finishes him off, uses a W on the Kha'Zix, flashes in for the kill there. She's even going to mop up the Xayah, I believe, as well. So if we watch this very quickly, jumps onto the Xayah, uses her auto attacks, uses her Q as well, and she manages to pick that up on top. So a little bit later into the game, I'm going to show you she has a Rage Blade right now. She is 5-0, but only one item at the moment. Same as Xayah pretty much, so they're pretty even if she is actually pretty fed in this game. She's going to dive in, go onto the Corki to start with at the back, just because obviously you don't really want to go for the Braum anyway. But this is, again, is going to show you her mobility and how good that is. He's going to get away. No, he's not, because she's got her ultimate. Diving in, and then going onto the Maokai to follow up. You'll see she's using her Q, autos, and that's pretty much going to mop up everything there. So this is the kind of mobility side of Kai'Sa, which is going to take some time to adjust to, but can really take your team fighting and everything to another level, and actually makes her like really good. Now we're pretty much into late game. Well, not really late game, but we're into 3 items, so into mid game, I guess. He's gone for an attack speed on hit build, so Rage Blade runes of Wit's End, really good AoE damage and single target at the same time. This is really going to show you the power of Kai'Sa, what you can really do with her in a team fight at least. So one of the enemy team, the Corki, is already dead. She's going to go in with her E to tag the Xayah. Xayah's going to use her ultimate to get away, and you think that's pretty much it. And no, she's going to dive in with her ultimate and actually go in flash over the wall, finish off the Kha'Zix as well. Maokai's going to flash in though to try and finish her off, but the shield from Thresh and the heal as well. And you can start to see the actual insane damage that she has ripping through this Maokai. That's partially the on-hit build, which is really, really strong. But to assassinate basically the enemy AD carry there, who in a normal fight, if you're playing Tristana or pretty much anybody else, they wouldn't really be able to do anything to that Xayah, who's now at the back of the fight with their entire team protecting her in front of her. But because you're Kai'Sa, you can jump in with your ult, finish it off, and do a good job there. So last fight of the game, this is a bit of a mop-up, clean-up thing, but it shows you how strong she can actually be. She's built an Infinity Edge now, last 4th item, so she actually has upgraded rockets. You see, though, she demolishes this Kha'Zix in a couple of hits now because she can crit. Look at the W on the Corki, is going to annihilate him from about 3rd health, so it actually does a lot of damage. You use the ultimate for the shield, the dueling power on the Xayah, and then the enemy team surrender. So that pretty much sums up why Kai'Sa can actually be insane. It gives you an idea of how to play team fights, and using her crazy mobility, especially with her ultimate, can actually be game-changing. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and this style of thing. It's a bit different, but I wanted to do a guide and actually show you some footage so you can kind of get a grasp of how you're supposed to play her in team fights and what takes her to another level. Hit a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking right till the end, but for now, I'll leave you with the robots.